All right, let's talk about the Nobel Prize. For more than 100 years, it's been the symbol of scientific genius. But what if that super coveted award is actually holding science back? That's the big question we're diving into today. Is the Nobel Prize, is it out of date?
For more than a century, winning the Nobel has been like climbing the Mount Everest of science, right? It's the absolute peak. It's the one award that can take a brilliant researcher and make them a household name, cementing their work in the history books forever.
But here's the catch. Science today looks nothing like it did when the prize was first dreamed up. We've gone from the age of the lone genius tinkering away in a lab to this incredible world of massive global teams. So you got to ask, can an award that's over 120 years old really be the gold standard for science in the 21st century?
Okay, so to really get to the bottom of this, let's go back to the beginning. Let's look at the grand vision Alfred Nobel himself had for this prize when he wrote his will.
And his goal, it was actually pretty simple, but also really powerful. Reward the work that gives the greatest benefit to humankind. Think about it. We're talking about huge, world-changing stuff, like the mRNA vaccines that saved countless lives, or gene editing tech that's completely rewriting the future of medicine. That's the kind of legacy this prize was built on. Okay, but this is where the plot thickens. As science is charged forward, some pretty big cracks have started to show in the Nobel's shiny crown. So let's zoom in and take a closer look. And listen, this isn't just some random critique from the outside. A lot of scientists themselves are saying this now. They're arguing that the prize is just dangerously out of touch with how research actually gets done today, that it's pushing a kind of outdated, almost distorted picture of what science is.
So what are these so-called blind spots? Well, we're going to break down the three biggest problems that are really holding the Nobel Prize back.
This slide says it all, really. On one hand, you have this romantic myth, the lone genius, which the Nobel just loves to celebrate. But on the other hand, you have the reality of modern science, which is a total team sport. We're talking massive global collaborations. The biggest breakthroughs aren't happening in some isolated lab anymore. They're happening across entire continents.
And this whole problem is made so much worse by this weirdly strict rule of three. See, for any given discovery, a maximum of 3 people can share the prize. Just think about the Higgs boson. The key theoretical work was done by 6 scientists, but only 2 got the prize. Or even crazier, the discovery of gravitational waves. The paper announcing it was signed by over 1,000 scientists, yet only 3 were honored. It's wild. For every single person who gets that Nobel medal, there are literally countless others, PhD students, lab techs, senior investigators, who are just left completely in the shadows.
Then there's the focus problem. The prize is kinda narrow. Just look at this chart. Between 95 and 2017, just 5 little fields, we're talking particle physics, cell biology, and a few others, ate up more than half of all the science Nobels. Now get this, those fields only make up about 10% of all the scientific papers being published. That means vast, huge areas of critical research are just constantly being ignored.
And this creates what a lot of people are now calling the Nobel gap. Because the original categories were set way back in 1895, entire fields that are absolutely crucial today. Think about it. Computer science, AI, environmental science, they're just not even eligible. It totally skews our public perception of what science is truly important in our world right now.
And finally, you've got the prize lag. The Nobel Committee, they wait a long time, sometimes decades, to make sure a discovery's impact is the real deal and not just a flash in the pan. And okay, that makes a certain amount of sense. But the result is this enormous queue of deserving scientists. And the really sad part? Some of these brilliant people do their life's work and then they pass away before they ever get the call from Stockholm, because the prize isn't awarded after someone has died.
But maybe the single most serious, most damaging criticism of the Nobel is its huge, and I mean persistent, diversity problem. Let's actually dig into the numbers, because they are pretty shocking.
Get ready for this. Only 4%. 4. That's the percentage of all science Nobels that have ever gone to women. And what's even crazier is that number has only budged by 1% in the last 30 years. And this is at a time when women have been earning over half of all biomedical PhDs for 2 decades. The pipeline of talent is absolutely there. The recognition, not so much.
And if you break it down by field, the disparity is it's staggering. In physics, for instance, only 5 women have ever won. Compare that to 221 men. That's a little over 2% of the awards in more than a century. It's just, wow.
And when it comes to racial inequity, it's even more glaring. In more than 120 years of Nobel history, not a single black scientist has ever won the prize in a STEM field. Not one. The number is 0.
Look, this isn't just bad luck or a coincidence. It's a reflection of a system that has, for a very long time, favored scientists from a very specific background. You guessed it, wealthy, Western, and overwhelmingly male. And why does this matter so much? Because when you lack diverse perspectives, you risk stifling innovation. You end up just reinforcing the same old power structures, and you might be blinding science to whole new ways of thinking.
But here's the good news. While the Nobel is kind of struggling to catch up, this whole new ecosystem of other major awards has popped up, and they're designed to fill exactly these gaps and give us a much better picture of what modern science actually looks like.
So, meet the disruptors. You've got these new prizes, a lot of them funded by Silicon Valley titans, and they are seriously shaking things up. Take the Breakthrough Prize. It offers triple the money. We're talking a cool $3 million. And it specifically shines a light on fields the Nobel totally overlooks, like math and fundamental physics. And of course, you've got the Turing Award, which has become, for all intents and purposes, the Nobel of computing.
And the list goes on. There's the Fields Medal, which is awesome because it honors brilliant mathematicians who are under 40. You've got the Lasker Awards, which are so good at predicting future Nobel winners, they're nicknamed America's Nobels. Then you have prizes like the Goldman and the Crafoord, which were created specifically to honor environmental heroes and whole fields of science that Alfred Nobel just never thought of. You see, each of these awards isn't just some other prize. It's a direct answer to a blind spot that the Nobel left wide open.
So, when you step back and look at the big picture, the Nobel Prize is really caught in a bind, isn't it? It's trying to celebrate 21st century science using 19th century rules. And that leads us right back to those three core problems we talked about. It pushes the myth of the lone genius, it focuses on a super narrow slice of research, and it has a huge, undeniable equity problem.
And that leaves us with one last kind of provocative thought to chew on. What if the Nobel's greatest role today isn't actually about celebrating the winners? What if its biggest contribution is to act like a giant annual report card for science itself? By showing us year after year who and what is being left out, it shines this incredibly bright light on the deep, systemic issues, collaboration, scope, and equity, that the entire scientific community still needs to fix.